everybody. I'm stumped, speechless, inspired, um, even more optimistic than I always am. Really, I think these young leaders that Shiv Khemka and your whole team, T-Gelf, everybody who's created, are going to be very special people. We have no reason to be pessimistic or cynical. I have to say I was very impressed with what you said, Shiv, if I may call you by first name. I'm meeting you for the first time. But honestly, a lot of people talk about leaders and leadership and all of that. But there were two things that really struck me. One was the fact that you said there were no state, nation boundaries, that we really have to look at the world as one place. It seems too idealistic, almost impossible. But then the Berlin Wall fell and a whole lot of other things happened, so you never know. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means the world is a family. We've been hearing it since we were children. But we always thought this is for those big leaders who are, maybe they do it and it'll never really happen. But I think to be able to have dreams and idealism that may seem impossible is, I think, beginning of that journey. So the fact you talked about idealism, because a lot of people tell me also I'm foolishly idealistic, and I feel that's very reassuring, because that means I'm still on some path, somewhere, which is towards a world that one wants to believe will happen one day. And the other thing you talked about was spiritual gravitas. I think spirituality is a much maligned word. We don't really understand it. We sometimes associate with religion and a whole lot of other things. But I think that spiritual space that we all come from, I think if we are true seekers, it will guide us, it will find. I'm not a person of destiny. I don't believe in any God, so to say. But I think I do believe in that energy, that alchemy, that honesty, that vision that takes us to where we really want to go. Now, we could all say that follow your dream, but I think it's very important to dream wisely, because many people can have all kinds of dream, Goldman Sachs and all of that world that I understand very little of. I can't even rattle off 4 names of those companies. I was most impressed with all these business plans, because I can tell you the leaders that I know and the ones I've admired, I don't think would have any of that skill. I was thinking while watching all this that who are the leaders that I admire? And when we say leaders, and in fact that's a question that I wanted to ask Vikram and you, considering he's from the media and maybe you could answer at some point, that today's leaders, when we say leader, then one expects there'll be lots of followers, because you lead whom? And therefore, today's leaders, would they need more media attention? Because if the media doesn't throw light, do they cease to become leaders? Or how do they really become leaders? Because who would know about them? So how does one really solve that dichotomy? I don't know. But when I think of leaders, and I think of people who have had great sense of integrity, who have been ethical in how they think, who are altruistic by instinct, who just believe that doing good is the only way they know how to live, that's a second nature to them. They're not doing it because it's the right thing or it's the done thing or any of that. It's just that's the only way they know how to live. And many of these people, if there's one commonality that I have found, actually 2. One is that they have great convictions that they could die for. And they have that courage to follow that conviction. And the second is that they have questioning minds. They question everything. They constantly ask themselves, ask things around themselves. And these are 2 things I've noticed, apart from, of course, all the other things that you mentioned. But these 2 things almost seem imperative. Many of these people who've inspired me are not famous, are not known, are not affluent, are not privileged. They're somewhere tucked away in some village doing fantastic work. There are people who follow them in the sense, who get inspired by them, and they lead tough lives. But given a chance, they would lead that same life all over again. And I think that courage of conviction is what I truly admire. Because to have a conviction, you could also be convinced about, like you said, Hitler was a great leader and so was Gandhi. What's the difference? How do you differentiate one great leader, great quote unquote, from another one? So I think when you have a conviction which automatically imbibes a larger good, I think your life is different. It's Sorry, there's somebody talking there, which is a little distracting, if you don't mind. Thank you. Yeah, no, sorry. So I think, but the courage is hugely needed because you can be very convinced about something and then there will be all these seductions on your way. How do you stay away from those seductions? But I've seen some of these people whom I've been inspired by, they don't get seduced because the conviction is so deep rooted that that seduction means nothing. Now, not trying to sort of sound high-handed or whatever, when people ask me, why don't you do commercial films? Don't they attract you? I mean, there's a lot of fame and money, and you could also do the good work if you were more popular, if you were more marketable. You know, you could always do these art films on the side, and you can balance it. There are all kinds of things that people project and tell you about. And I came up with this analogy that if you're a vegetarian, and which I'm not, and but if my mother is, and if I would tell her this is the best chicken tikka in the world, I don't think it would seduce her at all. I don't think she would even go there because she's a vegetarian. It doesn't make any sense. It could be the best biryani, the best chicken tikka, or whatever. So I think when you have a deep conviction about something, you truly have that idealism and you want to go on that path, all these seductions largely, you know, sort of just melt away because they don't seduce you. Some of us, yes, we all struggle with some seductions and some less, but I think the leaders that we saw today are truly outstanding. They had a clarity in their thought. They were far more articulate than I am, so I'm not even going there. But just the way they thought about their subject, the depth that they had, of course, the creativity. In 2 days, they've made a film like this. My God, they would put a lot of sort of eminent filmmakers to shame, I think, because in 2 days to think of a concept, to actually shoot it, to come up with an idea, to implement it, to entertain us while socially sort of touching us and had a deep social conscience within, and to edit it and the whole process of it. So I think it was fantastic. I'd like to give them all a big round of applause. Truly, they were all fantastic. The way they presented it to us, I think all of us bought their story. There was no question. Of course, in today's world, we've all become more articulate. We know all the right words. We know what buttons to press. But I think honesty and genuineness is something that you can feel. It's intangible. You can even feel it in a film. Sometimes you watch a film and say, this is a very honest film. You may not like 10 things about it, but you can feel that. And I think that intangible honesty of intent that one feels today, this evening, I'm sure we are going to see some wonderful things ahead. Thank you so much for inviting me today. Thank you.